Hello, you're tuning in the English News Bulletin on QPVN channel. I'm Chong Nguyen, and now let me keep you up to date with the headlines. Special mechanism needed to support reconstruction after natural disasters. Vietnam and Japan enhance cooperation for community benefit. Vietnamese eloquence contest attracts students of Japan. On November the 4th, deputies discussed the implementation of Social-Economic Development Plan for 2024 and gave opinions on tasks for 2025 at the ongoing 8th session of the 15th National Assembly. The event was attended by General Secretary Tô Lâm and Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính and chaired by National Assembly Chairman Trần Thanh Mẫn. The National Assembly deputies commented that despite challenges in the world situation, under the leadership of the party, the decisions of the National Assembly, and the dynamic, creative, close, and timely management of the government and Prime Minister, 14 out of 15 social-economic indicators will reach or exceed their set targets. The GDP growth rate is projected to be between 6.8% and 7% for the entire year. Many deputies highlighted the need for special and specific mechanisms to supplement resources for localities affected by natural disasters, especially mountainous areas, while simplifying procedures to deploy the resources. Need specific mechanisms and policies, continue to implement solutions to help localities and people stabilize their lives and rebuild flood-affected areas, as well as ensure growth because the GDP growth rate in 2024 is estimated to decrease by 0.15% due to the impact of storm number 3. People will never forget the image of officers and soldiers racing against time to rescue people and get them out of flooded and landslide areas. After terrible flash floods in Nụ village, more than 500 officers and soldiers braved the rain and floods to dig every meter of mud, cut through every bush and bank to find victims soon. The storm and flood have passed, but the national spirit and solidarity remain, creating the national strength. The National Assembly deputies also recommended that the government promptly take effective measures to prevent fraud and theft on personal information and social media platforms. They suggested continuing to reduce VAT to remove bottlenecks to support the economy, businesses, and people. The same day, the Military Commercial Joint Stock Bank, or MB, held a ceremony to commemorate its 30th founding anniversary and receive a first-class fatherland protection order. General Phan Văn Giang, Minister of National Defense, attended the ceremony. Over its 30 years of development, MB has risen to become one of the top 3 banks in the industry by pre-tax profit, reaching $1 billion and affirming its status as a modern, diversified, and reputable commercial bank in Vietnam's financial sector. In 2023, MB's market capitalization reached approximately $3.85 billion, with an average annual growth rate of 35%. The bank's revenue reached about $1.87 billion, with an annual growth rate of 20%. By the end of the third quarter of 2024, MB's consolidated total assets had exceeded $39.53 billion, placing it among companies with assets over $39.53 billion. MB also ranked in the top 3 banks for highest budget contributions in 2023. Looking ahead, MB will continue to align with its 2022-2026 strategic goals, focusing on building a digital corporate culture, creatively implementing new working methods, and aiming to secure top 3 positions in efficiency, safety indicators, scale, and pre-tax profits growth above the industry average. Celebrating its 30th founding anniversary, MB was honored to receive a first-class fatherland protection order, presented by General Phan Văn Giang on behalf of the party and state leadership. This award is a well-deserved recognition of the dedication, determination, and outstanding achievements by generations of MB's leadership, officers, staff, and employees over the past 3 decades. General Zhang praised MB's efforts and achievements, emphasizing that in its future development strategy, particularly during the 2022-2026 period, MB must strengthen the party's leadership, enhance its value, and reinforce its brand as a military enterprise. He urged MB to uphold the alcohol soldier spirit in its operations, attract and train high-quality human resources, build a corporate culture rooted in safety, effectiveness, and sustainability, and respect the rule of law. He also highlighted the importance of close cooperation with military and civilian units, contributing to poverty reduction, job creation, and social welfare. MB is to continue focusing on digital acceleration, breakthroughs, safety, and efficiency to fulfill its defense and economic mission effectively. The plenary session of the Vietnam Subcommittee of the Intergovernmental Coordination Committee 2024 took place on the morning of November the 4th at the Vietnam-Russia Tropical Center. Senior Lieutenant General Hong Sun-chien, Deputy Defense Minister, Chairman of the Vietnam Subcommittee, Co-Chairman of the Intergovernmental Coordination Committee on the Vietnam-Russia Tropical Center, chaired the meeting. The delegates discussed such contents as task performance in 2024, orientation for 2025, scientific research and application program for the 2025-2029 period, letter of intent between the Ministry of National Defense of Vietnam and the Ministry of Science and University of Russia, draft protocol supplementing the agreement dated March 7, 1988 on technology transfer within the framework of the Vietnam-Russia Tropical Center. Progress of transferring scientific research ship Professor Gagarinsky, mobile testing vehicle, and construction of laboratory infrastructure for disease prevention and control. Senior Lieutenant General Hong Sun-chien emphasized that in 2025 and the following years, such non-traditional security issues as epidemic and climate change will continue to be huge challenges that require the joint efforts of scientists to cope with. Therefore, the Vietnam-Russia Tropical Center needs to focus on forecasting, studying, preparing human resources and equipment, and promoting the advisory role. Also, on November the 4th, Senior Lieutenant General Phạm Hoài Nam, Deputy Defense Minister, met with a delegation from Japan's Ministry of Defense, Self-Defense Forces, and the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Senior Lieutenant General Phạm Hoài Nam lauded the Sasakawa Peace Foundation mission and its contributions to sustainable development and support for regional nations, including Vietnam, through meaningful initiatives like building schools in remote areas and providing prosthetics and wheelchairs for people with disabilities. Vietnam's Ministry of National Defense hopes for expanded collaboration with the foundation in education, healthcare, environment, and human resource training. Representatives from Japan's Ministry of Defense, Self-Defense Forces, and the Foundation thanked Vietnam for recognizing these services and affirmed the commitment to continuing support for effective bilateral cooperation. As part of a visit and exchange with the Korean Coast Guard, on November the 4th, a Vietnamese Coast Guard delegation visited the command center and paid a courtesy call on the leaders of the Korean Coast Guard Academy. Superintendent General Hang Sung-chun, the president of the Korean Coast Guard Academy, shared that the Korean Coast Guard, established on December 23, 1953, is responsible for maritime safety and offshore law enforcement. The academy began as a department within the National Police University and was officially renamed the Korean Coast Guard Academy in 2013 after several expansions. Also, on November the 4th, the Vietnamese delegation toured the Korean Coast Guard vessel Badaro. Earlier that morning, at the welcome ceremony, leaders from the Academy expressed delight at hosting a Vietnamese Coast Guard vessel at Yêu Su Port for the first time. Coming up next, Vietnam's rice export could surpass 2023 record. Vietnamese eloquence contest attracts students of Japan. According to the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Vietnam's rice export in October reached an estimated amount of 800,000 tons, worth $505 million. This brings the total rice export for the past 10 months to nearly 7.8 million tons, valued at $4.86 billion, a rise of over 10% in volume and 23% in value compared to the last same period. The average export price over the 10 months was about $626 per ton, about 16 million Vietnam dong, up 12% year-on-year. In 2023, Vietnam exported 8.13 million tons. With current export rates and domestic production, this year's rice export are expected to surpass 8 million tons, reaching over $5 billion and breaking last year's record. In recent years, Vietnam textile industry has leveraged FTAs to offset supply shortages, shifting its focus towards sustainable development, circular economy practices, and enhancing product value and creativity. These efforts are laying the groundwork for Vietnam textile sector to advance its position in the global value chain, particularly by meeting global green export standards to maintain its status as a major contributor to the country's GDP, accounting for around 20%. This company is planning to reduce energy consumption from electricity and coal, opting for renewable energy sources such as biosmart fuel or biomass pellets, and integrating over 50% recycled fiber in fabric production. Although green production requires significant investment and skilled labor, it is essential for the future. We are committed to increasing the use of recycled and organic fibers, ensuring alignment with green products, green factories, and green energy standards. According to Vietnam's textile development strategy approved by the government, the industry will have shifted to sustainable and circular business models by 2030 and focus on circular economy principles from 2030 to 2045. Most businesses now adhere to circular and green standards required by brands and importers. Non-compliance leads to exclusion from the market. Vietnam's commitment to COP26 is the backbone of our national strategy to reduce greenhouse emissions, and the textile sector must comply with these goals. As one of Vietnam's main export sectors, contributing about 20% to the GDP with the annual export valued at tens of billions, the textile industry is key for attracting foreign investment and generating foreign exchange. Meeting international standards is essential for the industry to thrive globally. Recently, in Japan's Chiba Prefecture, a Vietnamese eloquence contest took place, drawing 21 students from 8 universities, colleges, and high schools that teach the Vietnamese language across Japan. In recent years, the relationship between Vietnam and Japan has grown increasingly close. The presence of the Vietnamese language is seen in various places, from restaurants to annual Vietnamese festival held in major cities across Japan, which is contributing to a rising interest in learning and teaching Vietnamese in Japan. This is the 18th Vietnamese Eloquence Contest in Japan. This year's competition includes not just university students, but also high school and college students of varying competence levels. After 18 years, the competition is widely acknowledged as having a great impact on promoting the Vietnamese language in Japan in particular and boosting Vietnamese-Japanese cultural exchange in general. The contest is a good chance for contestants to exchange and improve their Vietnamese skills. The contest also provides a stage for beginner contestants, requiring them to perform expressive readings of the poem Nguyệt Cầm by poet Xuân Diệu and Quê hương nỗi nhớ by poet Hoài Thanh Tâm. As a judging panel member, Vũ Thị Liên Hương, head of the education section at the Vietnamese Embassy in Japan, emphasized the importance of the competition. She believes that the more Japanese students who can communicate in Vietnamese, the better the two nations' ties will be. I highly appreciate the role of Japanese universities, colleges, and high schools teaching Vietnamese in connecting students to share their learning experience and promoting the Vietnamese culture in Japan. I decided to learn Vietnamese at high school. I visited Vietnam and I was extremely impressed by the way the Vietnamese people live. In the future, I hope to work in Vietnam in the field of IT, specifically as a translator between foreign clients and Vietnamese programmers. Within the contest framework, Vietnamese students studying Japanese in the university has a chance to meet and exchange with their Japanese peers through cultural and music programs. And that's all for now. Remember, you can always watch news again at qpvn.vn. Now, thank you for watching and hope to see you next time.